as I promised, I have moved my phone mount to be in a much more well-framed position. Yeah, this I guess will work. I just hope I don't end up doing any damage to my air vent. Anyway, tolerances. So I don't know if I am saying this because of how the Libra works in my chart, because man, like doing this kind of thing that I do, it's just like Libra doesn't mean like I got Pluto in Libra, in Vedic Libra's on my ascendant, you know, like, but it's not really like super ultra whatever, right? Although Libra on the ascendant in your Vedic chart, I think is probably more significant than my Scorpio ascendant tropical, right? So perhaps it is, but so in my Libric side, which is stronger on my Vedic side, especially because I operate as a Pisces, and I made a whole video about this a million years ago, and I may have to do that. I may have to explain myself again because that was on an old channel that was deleted. I think it's from my first channel. This is my third. This is technically my fourth channel. It's ultimately it's really my third channel because my first channel I've lost access to. It hasn't had a video made on it since 2012, and I was a completely different fucking man. But and so there's nothing really there. Then I had the digital seppuku of my first channel. Then I actually got properly canceled on my second channel. I think it was a medical misinfo thing. It might have been a Jewish thing because I think I'd said a couple of things about Zionist conspiracy or something recently, and I was riding on 2 strikes. And certainly I've heard nothing or seen nothing of the Zeralath channel coming back since this thing happened, right? And I double checked. Is the Zeralath channel back? No. Right? But here I sit, Zeralath Eternal. I don't think Zeralath Eternal... Yeah, actually, no. Zeralath Eternal never got in trouble. Because by the time... Because I had let myself live without having a channel for a couple of months. I let myself have a complete nervous system reset from being a YouTuber for a couple months in reflection because of a certain sense of actual satisfaction when I lost it. And I think I was a digital sacrifice by these motherfuckers because it was nearly immediately after what hit me and killed my channel in 2022 that they kind of overall ended that whole system that did that to me in the first place. So in short, somebody decided to go for a last second spite because they knew I wasn't going to be that I wasn't going to end up doing a real violation, and they weren't going to wait for me to do it. I sincerely believe that was the situation, especially because I petitioned because they didn't really give an explanation. They didn't even really say it was a third strike thing. There really wasn't a real explanation. And so, you know, I asked them, explain, you know, just like, listen, this is an error. I don't think there's anything here. You're not correct in what you have done. There's no such issues going on. but they disagreed with that without explanation. So anyway, tolerances 2025. I'm saying the year because things shift over time, right? You know, we passed through an age where a certain cultural status quo was acceptable and ended up causing so much suffering by its end result that we rejected it and brought it into a point of destruction, right? Like, this is the decimation of Hollywood, the decimation of industrialized music, not industrial music, just music that is from the industry as opposed to an industry built by the artists and their business sense. And so we have, we see in our binary or false binary world the intolerances of each side that we have talked about, right? And life is not so simple as to say tolerate this, tolerate that, because, you know, you're having a conversation about the core of a thing, right? So how do you tolerate that which you are passionate to activist upon, right? And it's really about the tolerance of each other, and it's really about the tolerance of the secondary issues, right? If the primary issue for you is, I don't want there to be national borders or the concept of deportation, because that's the definition of fascism. What the fuck are you supposed to do with that as a nationalist, right? So you're in this struggle of saying things that sound awful while trying to explain X, Y, and Z, right? And in the false binary, nobody's talking about the legitimacy of authority, right? And then part and parcel of that legitimacy of authority is just like, what happens when the inconceivable happens? I never thought we were going to live in a world where the government policy was going to be so exponential in being a borderless, whatever. Borderless, fucking kind of like, you know, doing the open society thing that mocks the law and forces the law to exponent, which takes your anarchist argument. When you look at you looked at a permitted invasion, and then you have to ask yourself, at what point is it okay? That it's so okay and looks so enormous that something that has the resources to handle it, to do the right thing, could be something that you could be a part of, as a part of doing what's right for everyone around you, because the big conversation, like, we've had a huge fucking conversation for way more than 8 years about immigration and such. And we've been forced into a position where if you're gonna, you know, defend that idea, right? The idea is to say, like, there's no way that you can have your policies without being the evil one, even though nobody said anything about you being good or evil when you were doing it before this argument started up, and nothing's actually changed. Other than allegedly all sorts of violent cartel people that some of us want to imagine is kind of like wrestling, and that nobody's really killing anybody. This level of the game is real staged, not fake staged. Nobody's pulling punches. But people are being tricked. Somebody is a scapegoat. Somebody is a Judas goat. Right? So like once again it's like it's tolerances, right? It's like, can someone on the right tolerate parents who are pro-trans who are endorsing with, for their transition. They're aiding them in their transition, and they're not taking any money because they have the money, or they're getting the donations from the community or whatever to go through the procedures and the treatments to become what science can make a woman of you for the sake of your state of mind. Right? And what happened to therapy, where political correctness effectively means you can't be a therapist? The therapist can't say you have a mental illness because you think you're a woman. Right? Which is silly, because it's the trust the science people that are telling you that the therapist that says someone who thinks they're a woman who is a biological male is crazy. Right? But you can't say that anymore because you've changed the definition of sanity. So therefore, the crazy are the same. And we went through that for a little while, and now we're back over here, right? Because it was unsustainable, because it was unnatural. Right? And the thing is that if you just straightened out your state of mind, you could do what you're doing. Even though I wouldn't advise it. I mean, but if you think you got it, if you think you're going to get at least a result where you're going to come out the other end happy, healthy, and I don't know, you've met expectations, I don't want to stand in the way of that. Do not dictate how I am going to feel about that, which is going to, yes, lead a bunch of other things, and I have a responsibility with what I do with my feelings, but I have to have my feelings, right? Just like you have to have your feelings, because in this fight, a long way of starting a debate, starting an argument, and hopefully it remaining in the realm of civil, is to start with authentic empathy. Authentic yet professional empathy. You don't have to ham it up. But you don't want to just blow over it like it's nothing. So know how to speak your words with weight and with I'm not sure what the kind of words, what I would call the kind of words in question. This is something if I was talking to my buddy Bruce, who's a writer, he would give me a good sense of what word to use. Or he'd just tell me, go do what I do and just ask your AI. But anyway, I know AI doesn't really help him write his books. It's just for technical points. It's not for the actual content itself. But anyway, or even sentence structure. But anyway, so can someone on the right, tolerate this particular thing because there's a more important objective about remembering that My Body, My Choice was also about your right to decline procedures, such as being on a goddamn fucking inoculation schedule, aka vaccinations, or gene therapy, also now too. Gene therapy, excuse me. We are not. I don't think there's a goddamn fucking civil war really coming. Not with Antifa being the size that it is. It's a dwindling size. They're not they are grid dependent, because they're all like statists. They're all the whole reason they're doing this is because of whatever, right? And the only reason why things are prolonged as much as they are, why things are the way that they are, is that because there's so many of them that are just really effing misguided, and don't understand who is and isn't the enemy. And not that I'm saying that ICE is arresting people that you could call enemies, although they are because of the actual criminals there. But if you're not a criminal, you're just in a transition. That's all it is. And there is ample evidence that it was the end of the war, cut off of the supply chain on the Eastern Front, that made the concentration camps notorious for this kind of abuse. Concentration camps were not invented by the Germans. I think they actually might have been invented by the British. And of course, America had concentration camps. And the American concentration camps were not even about deporting people. Like, we weren't even deporting them just because I think we didn't want to give them back to Japan to be thrown at us in the fucking war grinder. Or whatever. I'm not... And, like, who's to say? I mean, I have to assume that we were not lying about what was going on with the Japanese camps, especially because there ain't nothing happening in a fucking American Japanese concentration camp like what fucking happened to the concentration camps that were cut off from the supply lines. And the people starved to death because they couldn't feed them. Think about it. Why would they be starving them to death when they could just shoot them instead of having them occupying space. They could have just done that. I mean, because they did also do that according to these fucking, historical records. There were firing squads, there was gas chambers, there was ovens, there were vile, inhuman scientific experiments. And the most moronic fucking rebuttal is the question that you can't answer either of why would they lie. I think that's Loki's favorite question. Why would I lie? That's what I would say if I was Loki. That would be like my slogan. Why would I lie? So, I feel pretty strongly from the aggregate of time, like, you get, like, it's a bit suspicious to me that half of a country is fleeing from half of a country, right? It's just like, that's a pretty dysfunctional country in which everybody is leaving en masse. How do we know they're not the ones that made it dysfunctional and are being squeezed out? And now they're bringing their dysfunction here. Because we just look at them and it's just like, oh, look at me, I am just going to work. And getting a bite to eat, and sitting over here and having a beer, and I don't know what, it just looks like it's a guy having his American time, right? What is an anarchist supposed to do if he believes in law? Because at the end of the day, that's going to be trust issue number one with trying to achieve anarchist society, is being able to trust each other enough to say, yeah, I am actually comfortable that I don't need a 24/7 accountability use of lethal injection or, lethal execution of means and ends. You see what I'm talking about here, right? And we have a process and procedure which is based on civility, right? There's some verbal jujitsu that an officer is trained in. And in the realm of verbal jujitsu, you have free range to very carefully resist the words of arrest, right? This is why you have to really, you have to have a certain focus of presence, a sharp mind, a relaxed demeanor. It's tough. There's times where I said, like, I wish I could have been slightly more particular with my words right there when I talked to the officer. I think I could have had a better outcome of this situation. right? And you keep that to myself, and I learn a lesson, until I eventually get to the point of like, you know, I've entrapped him into being on the record that he was entrapping me, and now I have something I could say in front of a court in which a case can be dismissed. And at the very least, if I have to bother with court, I have said something that is qualifying for case dismissal. If he is going to bother to proceed and continue to hold me under arrest and ultimately create the paperwork on the straw man to compel me to court. Right? This is the legal warfare that we human beings struggle with. And we're not even intelligent enough in our own language, like how I am talking to you now, to even have that higher conversation about making everything change, right? Because we need to have a far better, clear, in front messaging in our legalese. Our legalese shouldn't be something where it's just like, you didn't know the correct archaic pronunciation in terms from Black's Law Dictionary. That is the actual way that you get Section 9, Article 6, Line 5 to fucking be properly invoked for you. No, you do not get your way in the court today. This is the bullshit, right? This is the bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing that fucking matters is fixing the system we have now. It is actually here because we've had too many fucking fights about how much or little we need it. So let's just fucking admit that we fucking need it. Admit that we fucking need it. And let's debate its form, its content, its function. And fix it, or tear it down, and because the foundation's leaky, but it's but the design is right. But this is whatever the fucking, I don't know. I'm fucking pulling allegories out of my ass that I think illustrate the point properly, because I don't want to fucking talk about fucking how court procedure works. And as far as I'm fucking concerned, court procedure is a very simple thing that operates in akin to the scientific method. I think that's pretty easy to fucking understand. All right, that's my nonsense on tolerance. I will catch you guys later.